Welcome to The Sarah Scoop Show. It's time to get the scoop with Sarah.
Hi, my name is Hannah Cat Jones, and I am an actress, a model, and a inspirational spokesperson, your personal cheerleader. I love seeing people succeed and seeing people shine and thrive in their passions. So check me out at Hannah Cat Jones on Instagram, and definitely keep me in touch with your journey because, like I said, it's a team effort when it comes to making dreams happen. So I totally believe in you, and I can't wait to see what you do in the world and how you make it a better place. I'm one of those people that thinks that they can be in two places at once, but I haven't really figured out how to do that quite yet. So sometimes I kind of spread myself thin, and like the last 2 days have been really awesome. Like on the weekends, I work with a company called Talent Auditions and help start working with them on their acting. So I am one of their coaches that like gets to meet these new super fresh faces. You know, they've never gotten to do commercial auditions or television auditions before, helping them open up on camera so that they can do their best. The reason it's so fun for me is because I can't wait to say like one day that I see a kid on TV and I'm like, oh my gosh, I actually got to like be a part of their journey, you know? So it's really inspiring. And, you know, the way that I got started in television was much later. You know, I was like 22 when I got on Disney Channel. So growing up in Houston, I just remember so many people saying, oh, you're better off, you know, getting a real job or trying to win the lottery. You're not going to really succeed as an actor because it's so hard. And so for me, my goal is to like make sure that kids have like, you know, positive mentors and coaches that can help them. And it's been really fun. I decided to model in Texas for a year because it was such a like shocking experience. It all happened so quickly. Like my life just changed within like 3 months. You know, I was in college and I went to a random audition for America's Next Top Model just like for fun, you know, and my friends were like, you should give it a shot. And I was like, okay, I'll try, you know, and it just all happened so quickly that like right when I got back from the show, I decided to, you know, drop out of college, start modeling, and it just felt right for me to try in Texas first and like really make sure that this is gonna work, you know? I was like, was that a fluke? Was that a dream? Like it was still so unbelievable to me that I sort of needed, you know, to save up more money because like moving to somewhere like New York or LA can be really expensive. And I just needed more confidence too, even though like Top Model was of course like this awesome exposure. I like I said, it didn't feel real. And so when I watched myself on TV, it almost felt like I was watching like a home video. You know, the first time seeing yourself on TV, it doesn't really feel like it's, you know, on the CW or which is now, I want to say that's Freeform. And, you know, meeting Tyra Banks, it felt like there should be like a TV screen in between us. But instead, I'm just like right there in person with her, you know. So I lived in Dallas for a year and I started modeling for a lot of magazines, like local magazines in Texas, and doing the Fashion Week in Austin. And being in Texas after getting third place, it felt like I won because the finalists got all their hair chopped off, which was a terrifying idea. The makeovers are awesome. And like, I remember when I watched them before, you know, even the idea, the possibility that I could be on the show, when I watched it, thinking of the makeovers, I was like, this would be the only time that I would be okay with someone shaving my head, because I could just use the excuse, well, Top Model made me do it, you know? So like, I remember that episode when we were all getting our makeovers, I was so nervous because my dad's a hairdresser. And I was afraid that they were going to shave my head because they knew that, like, for me, hair is really important. You know, it's like a way that me and my dad kind of connect, and we get to bond through him, like doing my color, which looks so bad right now. Like My roots are so grown out. I haven't seen my, and I haven't seen my dad when my roots are this bad. Like, people are like, so it's been a while since you've seen your dad, right? Well, people who know me at least, but, yeah, it's just like, I don't know, the fact that that happened, almost a decade ago, and just like in hindsight, it gives me chills because that experience opened up so many opportunities for me, and it opened up my perspective to the possibility that your dreams can come true. And I sometimes can sound really cheesy with people because I'm like, follow your heart, believe in your dreams, reach for the stars, But for me, it's so important to continue that magic that really helped me get started. If people didn't believe in me and like tell me you should go audition in the mall, I wouldn't have had the courage to do it myself. So it is really important to have people who support you and a positive community around you. And like for me, growing up in Texas, there were so many people who just didn't think that it was possible. And I'm not saying that that was like in my group of friends. I'm saying more so like teachers and people who were like, oh, but like, what do you want to go to college for? And, college is so important. I totally believe an education is important, but what's most important is like following like what your passions are and like really acting from like a place of passion, like whatever like inspires you. And so right now, like the fact that we're in this weird time where people like are in quarantine and we're kind of like stuck to our own devices, like we have to really like entertain ourselves in a way. It's actually a really awesome opportunity to start listening to what makes you happy and just acting on that instead of like, what am I supposed to do today? What do I like, what does society tell me I have to do today? Instead of doing that, go, what's going to give me the most joy? And the other thing about life in general is that we have so many chapters, and what you decide to spend like the next 5 years on your life doing, commit to that. I think commitment is really important, not only in our relationships with people, but also with the promises we make ourselves. Like if you want to learn a new skill, you have to commit to practicing on a daily basis and know that the progress is part of the journey. Like being just focusing on trying to build a new understanding every day and like learning new information about the things that you want to get better at. And I'm just so passionate now about working with these kids because I feel like I see so much raw potential. I see so much greatness in the future generation. And even people, that are, like I said, who have finished a chapter in their lives where they've gone to, business school and they have a degree, which is amazing. Like there's so much that brings value to your conversations with people and how you see the world and what you can add to the world, as well as being able to say, now that I've finished that chapter of my life, what's the next chapter look like? And I think that's something that for me took some time to sort of reconcile with the fact that acting for me has been like the first 20 years of my life, and I'm coming up to being 30, which is crazy. And it's kind of like, now I'm like, what's this next chapter look like for me? And I love music. I definitely love collaborating with people such as Sandra with Delicora. And now I'm like, I really want to focus on bringing more awareness to the future generation and like lifting them up, because this, like, this time in our lives is definitely difficult. But when you think about like mental health and the generation that might be suffering the most as far as, the pandemic and what it's doing to their growth, it's this generation that's gotten, have to wear masks to kindergarten. I didn't have to wear a mask to kindergarten, even if they're lucky to go to school in person. And that's the other thing, is so many kids are doing their education online. And when you're sitting in front of a computer all day long, that screen time can really take a toll on your emotions, and your well-being. So there's, definitely the awareness of like health and wellness, and uh, taking into mind, like, there's something out there called COVID that we have to really be safe against, and then also something else called isolation, and how that affects our well-being. So this next, the next chapter in my life is really exciting because there's so much out there that we can, help and do to change the world for the better. I'm just feeling very optimistic about things, which is ironic because it's been like crazy this year. I'm like anxious about, the politics and like the climate that our world is in right now. But I think, when all of this stuff is like kind of bubbling to the surface, it's forcing us to have a conversation about things that really needed to be identified and discussed and, given a name and given a place. And when I teach the kids in acting, I also talk about how we need to recognize the emotions that we have. When we recognize the emotions that we have, instead of them having power over us, we can let them go, right? So like when we get nervous before an audition or before any sort of interaction, instead of going, oh, stop being nervous, don't be nervous. Oh, why am I anxious? I hate being anxious. I'm sweaty. My hands are shaking. I can't breathe. Instead of like trying to push those emotions down, I tell them like, it's okay to feel that way. You should accept that feeling. And once you accept it, it's the same kind of with like a headache. Once you like, all right, I have a headache. Instead of like trying to fight that pressure and that tension, by accepting it, it like actually helps you release it, and then you can move forward. By instead of being like, oh my gosh, I'm stuck inside all day, I guess I'll just watch TV and like complaining about it and just sort of being, submissive to the idea that I don't control my life. But instead, I've said, no, I do have a choice. I do have the opportunity here to expand on things that I've always wanted to do. So I think the biggest piece of advice I could give people right now is like, what's something that you've always wanted to do, but you've given the excuse that you don't have enough time in the day to do it. And for me, that's been learning the guitar. So like, I've been so adamant about like every day, I just got to pick up the guitar. I'm going to go on YouTube. I'm going to learn something new. And we have like so much information at our fingertips that I feel like over the last like 2 months, I mean, once we got into quarantine, once we got into lockdown, I was picking up the guitar. And I think I got in this habit of like every day when I wake up, the first thing I do is grab the guitar. And over time, like I've seen, like I've progressed so much that it's like so exciting, but at the same time, the other thing it's given me is like this energy of like things are moving forward. And even though it feels like we're like, stuck in one place or not really like allowed to do certain things that, I miss music festivals, I miss parties, I miss like hugging my friends and traveling and meeting new kids in person. And I can't do that stuff right now, but it's opened up a window of opportunity to grow in other areas. And my biggest piece of advice is picking up something new and focusing on that and just like, really instead of spending time like being mad at the current situation or complaining about it, do something about it. Like learn something new and just enjoy this time that we have. Because it's going to pass. And once it does, you're going to have a new skill because you've taken that time in lockdown to learn something new. I've watched so much Netflix. I'm obsessed with Dateline now. Like I am just like all over the Palm Springs movie is great. I've definitely put in a lot of hours in front of the TV. And I think that's important to remember too. Like, it's important to give ourselves a break and some like self-love and not always expect ourselves to be like on top of stuff and organized and, energetic, because this time is really stressful for people and it takes some, just deep breaths, relaxing on the couch, having some popcorn in hand and just vegging out watching TV. Oh my gosh. Well, I always love to tell people the story of like my first episode and how they tricked us. We went, like, when I showed up in LA, it was the final casting week. So there was still like 30 girls. And like, I didn't know what reality TV was like until they took away my cell phone. I wasn't allowed to talk unless there was a camera around. And that first casting week, we like learned a lot about like the rules of filming reality TV, and the way they treat the girls on the show is really different, like, than how they might treat somebody who's on, like, you know, a Disney Channel show. We're like the girls, the cast on Top Model, we were treated kind of like extras, or like not really like paid paid actors, you know what I mean? Like, we were kind of like treated like you're given an opportunity and you're gonna act like you appreciate it, or else we're gonna like get rid of you. So it was kind of like intimidating. And like, for me, I was only 20 years old. I'd never been outside of Houston or anywhere on my own before. So like traveling all the way to big sunny California and like seeing, you know, meeting these other girls who had modeled for years. Like, if I had known how fierce the competition was before I started, you know, auditioning and working on Top Model, I would have like totally acted and been so different. I would have been so much more intimidated by like all the girls and like their accomplishments already. Because I was working with girls who had already had agencies for a year, who had been on Go Season LA, who had done fashion weeks, you know. And for me, I'd barely ever modeled before. And that day when they tricked us was so weird. We were, it was Friday, and we had done this whole casting week process, which was like just so weird in itself, you know. And Mr. and Mrs. J come up with envelopes to the 30 girls, and they say, if your picture's in the envelope, then you're going to the house. And if your picture isn't in the envelope, then you're going home. And so, of course, I want to be in the model house and like do the America's Next Top Model competition. So like, I open up my envelope, like really, really hoping to see my picture inside, and it's blank. And when the girls who did have their pictures inside see that, they, you know, that they're in the competition, they're all like, haha, losers, suckers, you know, rubbing it in our face. And they walk out, like they get taken to wherever we're guessing the house is, the model house is. And so the first thing they did was like interview us, like, how does it feel to be sent home and rejected by Tyra? And they were like really, you know, the people who were interviewing us on camera were like really pushing us all to be pretty upset about, you know, not making it any further, and like that our dream to be on Top Model was dead, you know, like they were really like rubbing it in. And so a lot of us were crying in our interviews, upset because, you know, that we had come so far, and then it just kind of feels like rejection, you know, like you're done, and that was your chance and you missed your opportunity and all this stuff. And nobody likes losing, but not even getting into the house was like such a bummer. And like that, I grew up watching America's Next Top Model, not hoping just to get that close. And so then they're like, oh, Tyra Banks always feels really bad about the girls that she sends home first. So the good news is, you know, she's gonna say bye to you before, and then, you know, you'll be on your way. And so we're like, man, really? Like, they've already rubbed it in our face so much that we're not in the competition. Like, this just feels like embarrassing, you know. And so we go to this room where Tyra Banks is like walking down a staircase, and like all of our luggage is just thrown all over the place, and we're really feeling like we're like not cool right now, you know. She starts talking about how she faced so much rejection at the beginning of her career, and like so many people told her no before anybody said yes to her about, you know, wanting to work with her and things like that. And so she's like, I'm so sorry, girls, I have to send you home, but the good news is you don't have to go far. And she pressed a button, and the next thing you know, like this wall drops. We're in a penthouse apartment downtown LA, like huge apartment, right, with candy and toys everywhere, and our pictures. And she's like, you're in the competition. And it was like mayhem all of a sudden. We're like, oh my God. And like, if you watch it back, like some of us are falling to the floor crying, like, because we've been through this like emotional roller coaster for like the last hour. Like, you're not in the competition, you're going home. Just kidding, you are. I mean, like, does that ever happen? You never hear like in the Olympics, like, you get a gold medal. Actually, no, you don't. Because the other girls who were told they were in the competition, They were sitting on a bus for hours, had no idea. And then some producer, some like, you know, stage handler comes into the bus and is like, that was all for television. You're not actually on the show. You're going to go home tomorrow. I mean, we didn't even see them ever again, right? And like, so months later, when I was back in Texas doing modeling there, I ran into one of the girls who had been in the reverse situation as me. And she said, Tyra Banks didn't say bye. We just, you know, we were really upset. I cannot imagine like their, you know, if the roles were reversed. Because for me, it was like, oh my God, this is so cool. But like, then after that, I was so nervous the entire show because I didn't know if I turned a corner, they'd be like, oh, you're getting sent home. You know, it just felt like so fleeting. And so that experience, like right off the bat, had me always like my stress level super high. I was like super nervous. And then on top of that, just so excited. I mean, like, yeah, wow, this is crazy. We were going to all these amazing photo shoot locations, and I got to work. I did a runway show in fire. I did a runway show on top of like a pool inside a bubble. And there was so much like once in a lifetime experiences. But keep in mind, like before all this happened, I signed a contract that was like this thick. And one of the things in the contract said, if I die or if I get hurt, my parents don't get anything. Like they were basically saying like, you're assigning your soul away. And they were like, we're, you know, in the contract, it's like, we own your likeness and we can use your personality however we want on the show. And so they take 3 days of filming for one episode and they squish it into 30 minutes, right? They edit 3 days of filming into 30 minutes for viewers to watch. And so you can take the best parts of a person's personality and squish it and you love that person on TV. Or you can take every moment when they're like, this is messed up, and take that and go, well, this person is complaining the whole time, you know? So luckily for me, my character was like oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Or I was like constantly crying. And so like some of my backlash, like right after the show ended, a lot of like people were either like, oh, I really rooted for you, or they were like, God, you're such a crybaby, you know? And I was like, if you can imagine, I like barely got to talk to my family. The only people I got to talk to for 3 months were the other girls in the competition. So like my only friends were actually the people I was competing against. And it was just this very stressful situation on top of being like an unimaginable and so exciting, so crazy. So there was a lot of emotions going on, but I got kind of edited down to like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting. Or there's bees on my head, you know what I mean? So it was definitely like this once in a lifetime experience. And I'm like overall most definitely very grateful that Tyra like saw me as someone who should be on the show and picked me. And that feels like, you know, I feel very, very grateful about that. At the same time, there were things that never even aired that they put us through. And in that contract I signed that like I wouldn't talk about it for like 5 years, you know what I mean? So there's stuff that's been kept secret. And I don't know if you've heard or like kind of followed Tyra, but there's been like a lot coming up this year from past seasons of things that she did on the show, that the way they treated us and certain things that they said to us or did to us that didn't air or like was kind of not right, you know? So it's interesting, but overall, again, it was an awesome experience. And without it, I wouldn't have gotten to, you know, model in New York and in LA and like go to Marrakesh, Morocco. And I'm a lot of who I am today is from that experience on the show. So it's crazy to think about, but it was definitely an awesome part of my life. So Sandra over at Delicora, I met her in New York. I did I was working with a dress company at the time, and I went to New York for StyleCon, and she was there, and Mr. J from Top Model was there. So it was like this really interesting day, kind of like a blast from the past, like, oh, hi. Well, hello, Mr. J. Nice to see you again. And this was like before he wrote his book and everything. And Sandra was someone who at the convention, the style convention, really stuck out to me as like just a very authentic person. She was so kind. And like in New York, you can meet a lot of people who are like just totally like not, impressed by anything that you do, or they're just kind of like, yeah, so what, like, you're, you know what I mean? And she was just like someone who was just like genuinely interested in learning about me and like having conversation, when we like really hit it off. It was so cool. And then I went back to LA and recently, like, we've kept in touch with each other through Instagram and like just been a part of each other's journey, following each other's growth. And she reached out and she was like, do you want to do a collaboration with me? And it was just perfect timing because like with what I'm doing with my acting right now and kind of like where my mindset is, I feel very healthy mentally, you know what I mean? To like, and to want to share with other people sort of the positivity and where that comes from for me. So I told her, my mantra that's like gotten me through a lot is I am star power. And so I wanted to name the collection I Am Star Power. And that is about sharing the mantra with the audience. And my biggest, my message to people is that when you, when you put a piece of jewelry on, it's something that like kind of helps you, see the beauty in life. Like it's a little bit of a sparkle. It's something that can remind you of a message. And so like, this bracelet, like it's so beautiful and delicate. It's one of Sandra's designs like that she had on her website. And it's as easy to just like, the magnetism of it is easy to clip on. And as you put on a piece like this, all you have to do is say, I am star power. And like throughout the rest of the day, when you see that, it's a little message, it's to say, you are enough and you can do whatever it is that you want to put power into, whatever you want to accomplish. You have the energy and the ability to do it through positive thinking. And so that affirmation, like any affirmation really that feels good for you or inspires you, when you put on a necklace or you put something on, it helps your like subconscious or your unconscious mind remember that. So for me, it's I am star power. That's my mantra. And I just feel like it reminds me too of like where we all come from. We all come from the stars, and when you think about how there's so many people on the planet, there's so many stars in the sky, it's the same thing, and every person out there has the ability to change somebody's mindset on something. And so it's just really important to come from a place of positivity. The collection that I did with Sandra has, elements of nature in it too. Like the piece that I have here is one from our collection. And what I really love about it, this was Sandra's idea. She put sort of like a rose colored chain on one side, and then on this side it's gold and like a little thicker. And I just love that mix of different textures, and sort of saying that like nothing needs to feel perfect or expected. Like you don't need to do what people expect of you or be something. You don't have to meet someone's expectations to be enough in your life, Instead, just do what feels right for you and follow your instincts in a way that's like towards love, choose something out of love. So the other thing I was really adamant about with her is like raw stones versus like anything that felt like really polished. Because for me, I feel like we're all like a diamond in the rough, and it's definitely awesome to see a diamond when it's polished. But when you think about looking at those imperfections, that's what makes that diamond unique. And so the part of the quartz here is like a raw piece of quartz, and quartz is also a cool crystal that sort of in like I want to say like in the metaphysical world, quartz is a good stone to help you remember things. So like if you put an intention in the stone, such as like meditating with it and like thinking of an intention, that's like a way to lock an intention into the stone. And so I thought it was a really awesome addition to the necklace to add some quartz into it. And then we have some pieces that have tourmaline on it, which is, she has like this pink tourmaline stone that is so beautiful. And like when I packed, so we're on the road right now, and so when I packed, I didn't want to bring the tourmaline because those are kind of precious, you know. And this one is a lot easier to travel with. The other ones are like so precious. I was kind of nervous to take them on the plane and all that stuff. So definitely check those out on the website, because that stone is just like, the color, it looks like ruby, or like it's very pink. It's so beautiful. And yeah, that's where we're at with our collection now. And it's just been so cool to see sort of how she creates these pieces. And if you go to her website, it's like the options are endless. I don't know where Sandra gets her creativity from, or her imagination. She's just like so good at making new pieces. Like I would run out of ideas within like 5 seconds. Like necklace, earrings, you know what I mean? Like she's just has so many different options. And I love watching her Instagram too, because there's a lot of pieces that you'll find on her Instagram that are like only available on Instagram. And she is one of those brands that I feel like you can trust the product that you buy from Instagram. Whereas like sometimes there's products that are advertised on Instagram and they're kind of like not such great quality. But her stuff has all been really awesome. And like, I just love, like the clasps on most of these pieces are magnetic. I'm wearing a couple, so they're kind of like intertwined right now. But the bracelet's like a really great example of like, you know, a lot of times like these little dainty pieces are kind of hard to put on and off. But with the magnet clasp, it's easy to, you know, it's an easy one to like, if you don't like sleeping with your jewelry or like taking a shower with it, it's easy to take off. It's really sturdy and it's really easy to put back on. So yeah, she's just a really awesome person, and I'm super stoked to see, like, we've had some sales, we've had some good tracking with it, or some good what's the word, traffic with it. You know, we've seen a lot of people coming to the site and looking at the pieces and people purchasing them and stuff. And ultimately, it's just another way to get that message of positivity out there.
Thank you for watching The Sarah Scoop Show. Head to sarahscoop.com for more.